How's it going, everyone? My name is Evan Rogers. I'm an engagement editor at Engadget, and today we are joined by an entrepreneur, a YouTuber, and, dare I even say it, an influencer, Sara Dietschy. Everybody give it up for Sara.
What's up, guys? And
All right, so today I want to give our audience what they want.
Yes.
So we're talking about gear today. We're talking about cameras. Might talk about laptops. We might even talk about file management. Really exciting
Things are
topic.
getting exciting.
Yes.
File management.
So the first thing I know that our audience wants to know is, what do you shoot with, and why do you shoot with it?
Well, I happen to have the camera right there. So I actually just made a new purchase for my main camera for the first time in 3 years. So I usually shoot on a Sony a7S II. I grew up, like Canon always was my choice of camera. So my first one was a 70D, I bought the 60, the 5D, and then once the a7S II came out and it was shooting 1080 at 120 frames per second, it had 4K in it. During that time, that was mind-blowing, right? And so that's when I jumped ship to Sony, and I've never looked back. But being a YouTuber, doing many things, whether it's podcasting or YouTube videos, I have found myself with many cameras. So Sony a7 III, and then I have a Panasonic GH5. I have two of those to record my podcast. And then recently I have really been falling in love with Fujifilm cameras.
You said at first you were Canon, but then you jumped to Sony.
Yes.
And I've kind of personally noticed a little bit of a duopoly. It's in terms of YouTubers that I know. There's a lot of people are shooting Canon, a lot of people are shooting Sony. And I'm just wondering why you think that is.
It's like two different camps, and a lot of times people feel like PC versus Mac thing, right? It's you're either one or the other, which in some cases it is. And I say no matter what the specs in these cameras are, I mean, I love getting nitty and gritty. It all comes down to how you use it and like, does it work for you? Canon has a lot of great cameras that do a lot of the basic things really well. They have that swivel screen on all the cameras, so if vlogging, if you need to see yourself in those selfies and the vlogs, then that's a great move. They have the dual autofocus, dual pixel autofocus is the best autofocus on the market. But Sony just steps it up with the frame rates, with the resolution. They actually have really great glass now. So I think it really is, it has to come down to, do you care more about the specs, resolution? Do you want that 120 frames per second at 1080p? And a lot of the Canon cameras still don't have those high resolutions at 1080. Nikon has been behind for a while in terms of video, like for a while. But you can output 4K ProRes RAW using the Atmos Ninja.
The SR has a 24 megapixel sensor, and the SR1 has a 47 megapixel sensor. So in the context of video, I'm sure we're talking about the 24 megapixel one.
With video, autofocus is so important.
Yes.
And so when you're talking about photography, you can get by with like these Sigma lenses on a Canon or a Sony. But I found when I'm either pointing the camera at me, I'm vlogging, or I'm pointing at something else and it's something quick, so I need that, autofocus, I can't rack. It really helps to have native lenses.
The SR1 is gonna shoot 4K 60, like in the camera, but then you're like, but the autofocus. It always comes back to basics. Like,
and that's why Canon is still on top. They get the basics really well.
People talk about how they love Canon color. And like they just shoot it and just edit it. They don't even really regrade it, and like, that's a big time save.
I've actually been using my Send to Smartphone feature a lot for pictures on my Sony. And the JPEGs look great. I edit in ViscoCam on my iPhone and boom. Or I edit in Lightroom on my computer. But in terms of video, I use Adobe Premiere. And I used to use Final Cut Pro 7. That's what got me into this. I try to edit all of my footage on the SSD, right, on my laptop. The only hard drives I go back and forth with are the Samsung T5 SSD, and then I love LaCie drives. So LaCie actually just released their SSD, which is a direct competitor to that Samsung drive, which I think is going to be really cool. Most of the time, it's always worth it to spend the money for an SSD. Because it's just going to be so much faster.
And probably more reliable?
Yeah. So, hard drive, you have a lot of moving parts. You drop that, and that might not be good.
Yeah.
You might lose all of your precious footage. Sound, I edit it enough to where it's not distracting. If you have audio really quiet and then it peaks up really high and then it goes back down, like that's gonna distract your audience. Like they're gonna click out of that video. So I make sure it's level. Color correction I do basically on every single one of my videos. Film convert is great for just the more filmy look. I like that. I shoot in 24 frames per second. I use a little bit of Lumetri color panel. I think we've gotten to a great place where we have cameras that shoot in 4K. We have cameras that can shoot in 4K 60 frames per second now. And even if you want super slow-mo 120, it's gonna look fine scaled up, right? If everything else is 4K. On YouTube's end, they're still very slow with 4K. So I only deliver special things in 4K. Sometimes I'll shoot in 4K, I'll crop in, use the higher resolution to have some flexibility in the edit. In terms of really heavy content creation, I needed more power. I needed the latest Intel generation processors. I mean, I was on a 2017 MacBook Pro that had 7th gen i7 in it, and I'm like, how did I buy a new laptop in 2017 and still had a 7th gen in it? So I just started exploring. I really enjoyed the Razer Blade 15, but ultimately I ended up on the Dell XPS 15 9570 because it has every single port. So it has USB-C, USB Type A, Type C, but then also has an SD card. So the SD card.
Yeah, it's good.
Even a lot of PCs are taking away the SD card, and I'm like, stop.
For those people that don't know, the Dell XPS 15 is an incredible all-around PC laptop. People love it every single year. It's generally like mostly unchanged every year. They bump up the specs, they improve the build quality. But how have you found the latest generation Intel processors when it comes to 4K editing?
So,
I personally have not tried it at all. So
right. So yes, with video editing, I think the processor, and then the memory, those are like priority. But then the graphics card, which I really had a lot of personal education with this recent year, because as MacBook owners, we're just used to that integrated Intel graphics, right? We're not introduced to this world of NVIDIA graphics cards. Ooh, that's so exciting, right? But what a lot of people don't know is in Adobe Premiere, they have the CUDA core acceleration. And that is only possible with NVIDIA graphics. And so the moment I started exporting my 12, 15-minute videos, and I had that, not just the integrated graphics card, but I had that dedicated graphics card, that NVIDIA 1070 in the Razer Blade. I mean, once you start color grading, you have those the GFX and stuff. Oh my gosh, the graphics card makes such a huge difference. So I would be used to, on the 2017 MacBook with a Kaby Lake processor, 7th gen, I would export a 12-minute video with a adjustment layer of color grading in 20-ish minutes, which is fine. And then I would go on the Razer Blade, I'd go on the Dell XPS, and literally it would be like 6 minutes and 4 minutes. If you're not doing any heavy video editing, and that's not your priority, and you love Mac OS and you're in the iOS system, just buy a MacBook. You don't have to worry about reliability. You don't have to work. It just
very good customer service.
Great customer service. If you do anything above general video editing, go find a good PC laptop, because you're gonna get so much more bang for your buck. I mean, the Dell XPS 9570, you can get 16 gigs of RAM. You can have 8th generation i7 processor.
The 45-watt CPU. The 45-watt CPU.
It's gonna have a 4K screen, touch screen. Touch screen. You can get 512 gigabytes of SSD. It's gonna put you out $2,000. If you want something similar to a MacBook, that's gonna be $3K.
It costs a lot of money to upgrade to a 4K screen.
But
when you're in Premiere, being able to have the little preview window that's very close to actual resolution, it's pretty handy.
Yeah, it's good. And I would say if your priority is gaming, then find a laptop with a better refresh rate instead of going for 4K. That's the thing that people don't realize as well with these PC laptops. With the XPS, with the Razer Blade, you can upgrade it. Say it has 16 gigs of memory, you can put 16 more, and now you have 32 gigs of memory. A MacBook is going to be very locked down. You're not getting inside of that.
Well, thank you everyone so much for watching. Check out Sara's YouTube channel and her upcoming podcast. And for more technology news and reviews, check out Engadget.com. Yay!
Oh wait, don't move yet. Don't move yet.
Okay.